What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Read for Higurashi When They Cry Go. This is episode 24, the final episode of, I guess, of this part of the new Higurashi. And with me, as always, I have Loosepade. I guess we should clarify on that, too, because before this episode, really, I guess around the same time, this episode came out, or I guess whenever the episode came out in Japan, they made an announcement basically teasing something called Higurashi Sotsu. This is something that was, leaked before, and people were speculating as to what Sotsu was because they weren't sure if it had anything to do with the new Higurashi anime, but I guess this is pretty much confirmation that Sotsu is a part of the new Higurashi anime, because of course alongside that we also got that leak not too long ago about the Higurashi having 30, some people in the comments were saying it's actually 36 episodes altogether. The Higurashi Go, at least at the time we were thinking it was going to be Higurashi Go, but it seems like what I was speculating is this would be there would be another core, and that seems to be what this is, because they're calling Sotsu technically the sequel to Higurashi Go. So this is technically the end of Go and the beginning of Sotsu, or leading into Sotsu.
Yeah, it's just
so yeah, it's a little bit weird. I mean, and of course the whole time Ryokishi has been just messing with everybody by saying contradictory things and trying to mislead people, and it's anybody who's not really familiar with Ryokishi just kind of doing this is going to be kind of confused, but apparently this is something he likes to do. So this is what he's been doing the whole time this series has been airing.
I mean, unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait for Sotsu until the following anime season, which is gonna be in July. So it's not gonna be in the following 3 months like it was originally leaked.
Yeah, they're taking a break for a while, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, we did get a small 30-second teaser of the show, but based on what's in the teaser, I mean, it just basically looked. It's
just the same footage.
Well, it's more or less some different stuff here and there, I noticed, but it doesn't. I'm just wondering how long this is going to be. I mean, personally, I would rather it be maybe 12 or 13 episodes for this, for Sotsu, in my opinion, because.
Well, if it's 36 altogether, this is episode 24.
I mean, just based on based on what happened in this episode, it does not follow up on on the whole Uncle Teppei stuff. I mean, at the start of the episode, it does get referenced, but they don't follow up on that. Unfortunately, now we're following up on Miyu Takano for this.
I was surprised that they did this, because I pretty much expected them to actually follow up what they did in the last episode, but not really what happens. And like you said, this is more focusing on Miyu Takano, which she really hasn't gotten a lot of focus so far in Go. So I think this is the episode that actually focuses the most on her character.
Pretty much the first scene. Well, before this, we do get back into that whole dimensional plane with Sadako and Featherine, or Iua, whatever the hell she's called now, is they talk about about her uncle, and then she just basically brushes it aside. I mean, saying that she's gonna use her uncle for her own means, which is of course what happened during that one arc in the first half of the season, in which
I feel that might be foreshadowing for that.
It's possible, but then like we said, it completely transitions over to Miyu Takano, and the first scene we see is a scene that happened in Higurashi Kai, in which she which her and the rest of her division was defeated by pretty much everyone else, including the main cast. And so, but there was one.
I think in this one they were defeated by a group called the Bloodhounds.
The Bloodhounds. Well, the Bloodhounds arrive to pretty much take over, and this causes the the other hound. I forgot which hounds.
The Mountain Dogs, I think.
The Mountain Dogs to pretty much straight up surrender, and this doesn't. this doesn't sit well for Takano because she, her mission isn't even finished yet. However, like, she gets told, like, what was it? The woman named
is like Nomura?
Nomura, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty much like, that Nomura is using Takano as a scapegoat, and pretty much her last request is for Takano to kill herself. Now, this did happen in the original. This exact scene did happen in the original Higurashi Kai. The only difference is, like, well, okay, so Takano gets given, like, a gun with just only one bullet in it in order for her to kill herself. But rather than using that to kill herself, she tried to use that bullet against Hanyu at the end of that episode, but she ends up missing it in the process. However, in this scene, like, now she uses that gun to kill herself, and in the process, she suddenly just goes back in time, like, where, at the start of the loop. And then all of a sudden she gets a phone call from Nomura talking about, like, to initiate the final phase of the plan or something like that. And then
I was gonna ask, is Nomura in the original series, or is she referenced? Because I don't remember. I don't remember her. I don't know if she
was referenced, I think, okay. Or I can't remember seeing her, but I do remember hearing about her at the end of Higurashi Kai. But yeah, we do get to see Nomura in this. But she's only in that one scene talking to Takano, just pretty much telling her to initiate the final phase of the plan. However, like, what happens is Takano decides to open up at one point, like, decides to open up a photo album of her and her grandfather, and we get to see a flashback of her as a little kid, just overseeing, like, a meeting with her grandfather, talking about his research on the Hinamizawa syndrome. Of course, like, his research just pretty much gets shot down, and then he gets insulted in the process, and this doesn't sit well with Takano at the time. So this pretty much, like, encouraged her to follow up on her grandfather's research on the syndrome. So back at the clinic, she finally opens up, like, well, the reason why she took out the photo album is she said that she wanted to open it by the time she finished her mission. However, like, she didn't really finish her mission. She just decides to open it up and, just pretty much reminisce on everything, she did with her grandfather. And then all of a sudden, she takes out this envelope with, her grandfather's last wishes, in which she reads that, her grandfather will, like, is appreciative of trying to continue his research, but rather than follow up on that, he wants her to pretty much live out a normal life ever since she lost her parents in an accident, like, several years ago.
Yeah, this is something, I think this is new, because I don't remember this as well, like, where she gets, like, a letter that her grandfather would told her not to continue his research and, like, live out a normal life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of where her character arc goes to at the end of the original series, I believe, but here it just seems like instead of her actually going through with what she does in the original Higurashi, she's persuaded not to by this letter and to not continue the research.
Yeah, I mean, well, if you remember, like, I think it was what was it? I think it was in that final episode in which we find out that Sadako's a looper. There was that one scene in which we see Takano talking to Rika, saying, just pretty much admitting that, that she was going to kill her.
Oh.
It was that scene that's following up from. And
yeah, I guess that's another thing that they might be setting up if they plan to go back to the arcs from, go back to the arcs in the first half of Higurashi Go in Sotsu.
Yeah, it's and then pretty much she, and then of course she after this, like, she meets up with Sadako again about her about her ongoing treatments, and then she pretty much admits to Sadako that she's planning on quitting her job, or, like, specifically her plans to continue that operation that she's involved in.
Yeah, it's like I feel like, just like Teppei in the last episode, we kind of have like Takano acting sort of out pretty different from how she usually would in this episode too. Like she's not really hell-bent on continuing the research and by whatever means necessary. It's more like she's, after she received this letter, she's kind of, or read this letter, she's pretty much given it all up. Which is, it seems pretty out of character for her.
Yeah.
So I maybe that's the, because at first when I watched this, I'm just like, is this in any way like related to the last episode? But I think that could be what it is. But that's just speculation.
It just seems like more people are trying to re-experience like certain things that happened. Like if you remember, like in the last episode, Teppei like had two bad dreams in which he ended up getting killed, like through drug overdose, or like second one he got killed by a group of loan sharks. Then all of a sudden, like he wakes up again and then just starts to turn a new leaf soon afterwards.
Yeah, and I think Featherine or Yua also says in this episode, she mentions again about how if somebody goes through a certain amount of loops, they will some kind of irregularity will occur where they'll all of a sudden act differently than they did before.
Yeah. I mean, if we remember, like Keiichi also had these frequent dreams of what happened in prior loops too, but now with like not just like Rika, Sadako's been doing it like repeatedly over and over and over again. Like we see her in this episode just constantly just snapping her fingers, just redoing certain things.
And
but
it's not like with Rika either, because she doesn't. It seems like she doesn't have to die. She just can just keep snapping her fingers and everything will just reset. Because we see that's how she actually ends up getting the code to get into the H173, the Hinamizawa syndrome vials.
Well, she doesn't find out. She doesn't learn what the code is. She just repeatedly just snaps her finger and just presses random numbers.
She gets lucky. She just keeps guessing. She keeps guessing at what the code is. So, yeah, we see a scene where Sadako just sneaks into where the case is, where the vials are being kept, and just continually gets the code wrong, and just keeps snapping. Every time she snaps, she'll get a wrong code, and just eventually she'll get the right one. I just like I don't know why she wouldn't just like try to find out what the actual code is rather than just.
We saw her do this in the last episode too, and like in
with the card game.
Yeah, but is this what? Well, we were asking this, like, was she dying, or is this a new ability that she just suddenly has to just?
I don't think she's dying, because like she didn't die when she did it with the card game, and she didn't die when she's doing it to figure out, or to just continually do this trial and error to find out what the code is, unless she kills herself off screen. But there's not really anything to imply that. It just seems like she could easily just snap her fingers and reset everything. So it seems like she has a really unfair advantage over somebody like Rika, who has to continually die in order to reset. Whereas Sadako, at least it seems like she doesn't have to die. She can just keep snapping her fingers and just reset everything.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, she does eventually find out the code, and then that's pretty much how she gets, gets her hands on on a vial of the Hinamizawa syndrome. Just basically just use it, to inject it on a random person just to create a tragedy in order to restart the loops all over again, and then that's pretty much it. It's just like we see this like last scene with her and Featherine talking about like how things are gonna go from here on forward, and then. Sadako just decides like she's gonna make like Rika suffer in order to prevent her from leaving Hinamizawa in the first place.
It almost feels like this is the same conclusion we got with like, what was it, episode 22, where she's like saying I'm going to I'm going to win against Rika, and it's kind of the same thing here. I don't know, I kind of have mixed feelings about this, I guess, quote unquote finale.
This is not a finale. It's not.
It doesn't feel that way, at least.
It doesn't feel like that. I mean, of course, this is the last episode of GOU, and then we're heading to Sotsu. But it's just honestly, I have a lot of mixed feelings on like how this entire season in particular played out. Because
yeah, same. Like I guess considering what we have so far. I'm debating between a 6 or a 7. Like,
I give it a 6 because for one thing, the plot like dragged out for so long until it really got to the point where we finally get, some plot development by the second half of this, of the show, in which we find out Sadako was the new Looper. And then of course we did get some origin sequences of what happened since then, but then that even dragged out even further. And then these last 2 episodes, I mean, I thought they were okay, but then it just got thrown in there as as the last 2 episodes, rather than having to just go back to that, to that one scene that left us off on a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I mean, I think I see where they're going with the plot, but it feels like some scenes just kind of drag out for a little bit too long. I think the pacing is definitely the series it has a pacing issue in my opinion, because I feel like it's sort of all over the place with the pacing.
Yeah.
It just feels at times it's going way too slow, and especially at the quote sort of like at the end of GOU, it's like the pace doesn't pick up at all. It's pretty much as slow as it has been, and it's like I said before, it's like sort of the same conclusion we got to at the end of episode 22. It's just the only difference now is that we know for sure she has the vials, which you could already kind of guess that she would have obtained the vials regardless. So I mean, it's nice to at least we have confirmation of it. But like I said, this is something you could have just guessed at, or they could have just shown in a brief flashback, if or something like that. But I think the point of this episode was just to show, like Teppei, that Takano was also possibly experiencing the other fragments, and she just went a completely different direction with her characters, similar to Teppei. So just sort of showing that other characters within Higurashi are changing when Sadako continues to loop. So there could be something that's important in Sotsu that they might bring up again. But I guess that might be the relevance of it, because as it is right now, I'm just not sure how exactly it is relevant, like they were seeing this, because this is again something that we have seen before in the original series with Keiichi, and as well as in the beginning of this series where he is also remembering other fragments. I also feel like this is something that could have, that to just cut down on time could have been addressed pretty quickly by other characters also revealing that they are beginning to remember things, instead of dedicating like an entire episode to each character starting to remember things and going in sort of a different direction with their character. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Yeah.
That they're
I mean, many people have been speculating whether or not this show is going to lead into some kind of Umineko origin story or something like that, like Rika being Burn Castell and Sadako being Lambda Delta or whatnot. It's just, but right now it's just this entire season just just dragged on for a long time, and I mean it was fine for at some points, but I just I don't know, I just felt like there was just too much padding at times, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's kind of my main issue with it. Like I said, I feel like there's definitely some aspects of it that could have been cut down significantly. So I don't know. Maybe like I said, maybe they'll become relevant later, but I still think they could have been cut, because it just kind of creates a pacing issue.
Yeah. And now we have to wait until July to really find out what's going to happen. I mean, we've kind of been strung around.
That's another thing too. We've been strung along this entire series as to what's going to happen. Where's this going to lead to? And now we have to wait even more, to actually get any sort of substantial answers to, where exactly this is headed. I've been predicting this is going to eventually, I believe, lead into potentially an Umineko remake, and I hope it does. That would be honestly the best thing that comes out of this.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a good way to do it, to reintroduce Umineko by having this be the origins of Lambda Delta and Burn Castell, and just have it like lead into that.
Yeah, it's just another thing that I don't think really even helped is Ryukishi's this constant mismanagement of his, like, I don't know, whatever the hell he's been doing is just like misleading like viewers or potential viewers of the show. It's like he lied about this being, you know, like some kind of remake, or he lied about it being like whatever the fuck he was calling.
Well, he said the series was accessible to people who haven't seen the original. He said that this was a remake of Higurashi. He also claimed that Featherine wasn't actually Featherine.
I mean,
there's a lot of things he said.
Yeah, and we all know that was all a fucking lie. And then you just like intentionally just like had us, like you said, we were strung along with this show like for the entirety of like 24 episodes. We had to watch this.
Yeah, I mean, I will say it makes things kind of interesting when, you know, he says one thing and then, you know, it's a surprise, you know, it's as you find out something else. But at the same time, it is also annoying because it's like, I mean, you're just like, he's constantly he's constantly doing this.
Honestly, I just feel disappointed even after watching this last episode. I mean, I was hoping that we would finally get like a follow-up to what happened at the.
Oh yeah, we still don't have a follow-up to that. I guess they must be saving that until the very end. Like, if they ever go back to it. Like,
well, I mean, eventually they will have to go back to that. You know, once Sotsu comes around. But what I'm afraid is like, how are they going to, you know, go through, you know, I guess the 12 episodes of that show? Because are they going to have to repeat the entire, you know, loops again of us seeing like all of our main characters?
I think that's what they were setting up. I think that's where it's going.
Yeah, because based on the teaser, it looks like we're going to see our main characters again, but it's going to look like they're going to end up killing each other again. I mean, it's good for the first time, but then it's like, it's not going to get anywhere if you just keep showing us the same things over and over again.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I feel like they should just dedicate maybe 1 to 2 episodes to actually like showing those again, just from Sadako's point of view and what she did in those loops. You know, instead of dedicating multiple episodes. There's no way they could either, because it's only going to be 12 episodes. So they would have to do it. They would have to just do like 1 episode or maybe 2 for each of these arcs, the arcs that we got in the beginning of the series, and just show it from Sadako's point of view, so that we actually get, because there is still so many unanswered questions with those. So, you know, this time we'll actually get the answers to what really happened and what involvement Sadako had with what happened in these arcs. But yeah, I mean, I will say I am interested in finding that out. But like I said, they definitely need to condense it down to just 1 episode, maybe 2, and then dedicate the rest to just the confrontation with Sadako and Rika and what's going to happen there.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, I was fine for the first, I don't know, like first half of the second core, but then like it just kind of dragged out a little bit too long, in my opinion.
Yeah, it definitely feels padded. You know, it's just like the only thing that annoys me is I feel like some parts of the series just waste time, and the time could have been better spent doing something else.
I mean, yeah, but now we're gonna have to wait through all the way to July just to find out. But like I said, I'm just like a bit concerned of like how that's gonna be presented. If they're just gonna continue dragging this out a little bit longer, then we would have to wait until like possibly by the end of that core in order to find out what's going to happen, or if they're just going to add another core in there, which I'm not sure if that's going to be a possibility.
I highly doubt that. I mean, I would be surprised if they did. Like, it's just like, I think it's definitely going to be it's probably going to end with the next core. At least it should. Because yeah, if they did another one, it would be just way too drawn out at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have too much else to say. I will say I was just a little bit disappointed that this is like the last episode until, you know, and then we have to just wait a while for anything else. Just the note it ended on was kind of, I guess I would say, underwhelming, because like I said, we've already kind of seen this. You know, we already know that Sadako is going to try to, you know, mess with Rika. I mean, that was already established. So just ending on that note was kind of like, you know, well, we already knew that. So I don't know. I don't know how, if you felt any differently about it.
Honestly, I don't know what else they're going to end up telling in order to get to that, you know, final resolution. I mean, it just feels like they're just going to keep dragging this out until we finally get.
Well,
you know,
like I said, it's more than likely just going to be the explanations as to what really happened in these in the beginning arcs, and then they'll probably either halfway through the Sotsu or more than halfway through go back to the present time and just show the confrontation between Rika and Sadako, however that's going to happen. So yeah, I think that's how it's going to go down, but could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, it is cool that we're going to get a follow-up to this. But like I said, I just have kind of mixed feelings about Higurashi GOU. I'm debating whether it's something that should exist or not, to be quite honest with you, because I don't know. As of right now, it feels like, you know, people can just easily write it out of their headcanon for the series. But I don't know, maybe once Sotsu is finished, it will have established itself as something that wasn't necessary to have happened, depending on how that plays out. But yeah, I just don't really have too much else to say about this episode in particular. I guess just my general thoughts on Higurashi GOU was, I was excited at first, and then I felt like as it went on, it sort of died down because of how the series was paced and how it felt like we were just kind of going through the same events of the original series. I mean, it did kind of, you know, give us that twist where we find out that it's Sadako behind everything, and a lot of people had speculated that. It's a lot of what's happening and has been happening recently, I will say, kind of feels a little bit predictable, because I did see a lot of what happened in this episode and what's been happening. I saw that coming once we discovered Sadako was the villain. But, you know, so everything else hasn't really been as surprising. That was like one of the highlights, I guess I would say, is that, you know, them revealing Sadako as the villain. But unfortunately, as a side effect to that, it kind of makes Sadako become a not so good character. Like, I mean, I think if this episode really emphasizes anything, it's that Takano as a character, you can feel a lot of sympathy for her, and you don't really see her as necessarily a bad person because of what she was trying to do. Sadako, on the other hand, she's doing this for very selfish reasons, and she doesn't really care about the suffering of anybody else. Like she said with her uncle in this episode, she's just going to use them. So it's just like, if you liked Sadako before, you're really not going to like her in Higurashi GOU. So I feel like anybody who's like a fan of Sadako is really probably not going to like this series too much. Because they really double down on how bad of a person Sadako is. You know, at first we could maybe say, you know, and Rika is kind of at fault, but Sadako is 1,000 times worse for what she's doing. It's like, it's just completely unjustified what she's doing, as opposed to somebody like Takano, where I could understand her motivations. Sadako is just, like I said, is doing this for totally selfish reasons. And it kind of drags her entire character down. People have made the argument that you know, you could see Sadako becoming this sort of person, but I don't know. You know, like with the original series, where they were saying that, I guess they were, you know, kind of laying the groundwork for her becoming a character like this, but I just don't know. I don't know if that's true. It feels like she's just acting completely differently. You know, when they actually go into when they actually do the time skip. But I guess, you know, people could also make the argument, you know, characters can change over time, but it just, I don't know, I can't help but feeling this just feels really out of character for her, because at first I was just willing to believe she was being manipulated, but now we know she's really not being manipulated. She's doing this all of her own free will. So, yeah. Yeah, but I guess that's just my general thoughts on GOU. It's okay. Like, I would have to settle on a 6, to be honest. I I just have to debate like if it's really necessary for people. I guess if you're really a fan of Higurashi, it's worth checking out. But like I said, it's going to destroy one of the central characters in Higurashi, that being Sadako. You're really not going to like her in this.
Yeah, it's. I mean, yeah, it's that whole BS with Ryukyushi saying that you don't need to have to watch the originals to know what's going on. You really need to watch the originals just to find out what's happening, because
yeah, at least watch the original anime.
They're just like, just by the second half of this core, it's just a lot of references to what happened in Kai is going to cause a lot of confusion.
Yeah, and especially because in the second half they spend so many times jumping in between different arcs, you'd be like, where are they now? What's going on? You know, you're going to be so confused, and you won't know what arc they're even in or what's going on. But if you've seen the original, you might know you might have an idea of what's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't have too much else to say about this, about Ghost, or this episode. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
I mean, God, I mean, it was okay. I mean, it was fine to to go back to the whole Higurashi stuff, but it's just the issues I have with the show is its pacing, and just having it just completely padded and dragged out all the way until like the 24th episode, only for us to find out that we're gonna have to wait for a continuation like up until July or something like that. It's just I don't know. I really felt like several things could have been resolved like within several points of the show, but they just decided to just drag this out for so much longer for whatever reason.
Yeah, it definitely felt that way. But yeah, that all being said, I guess until July comes around, for Higurashi Sotsu, we will see you all next time.